see is misconstrued on the street all the time. So when they're selling a house or when they're living in a house, the VA would consider that a departing residence. So there's a couple questions that come up. And, question one, are they really going to sell it? Or are they going to lease it out? Are they going to do a contingent sale? Or are they going to try to buy the other house first and then sell the existing house? Now, the VA guidelines are different in every case depending on what's really best for them. So most loan officers will just ask them, well, what are you looking to do? And then they take notes, and then they come back and say, okay, this is what you can do. But a really good veteran mortgage advisor, which is kind of the brand that I try to push for myself, it's like the people that take our training, if you will come in and say, okay, have you considered all the options around your sale? Do you know when you're going to move? Have you ever considered making that property a rental property? Have you looked at maybe buying before selling? And they kind of they go deeper on the questions to really see what the veteran's comfort level is with several different ways to structure the transaction. Then they'll go back and say, okay, well, here's some things that you didn't know about the VA loan. For example, number one, if you were to rent your current house out, I don't necessarily need you to go get a landlord or have a signed lease or any of the things that you might think you need to do. All I need you to do is tell me in writing, little explanation letter, I'm looking to rent this house out. And then on my end, I just go to like a Rentometer or a Zillow site, or worst case, there's not enough data there because a rural area, like I can get a real estate broker's opinion that shows that you leased it enough to cover your mortgage payment. And in my world, I get to completely wash that from the calculation. So I can qualify you for a new house just based on what you make in your credit. I don't have to worry so much about the old house. The VA is giving you a great chance to start building wealth with that first house. Now, the cool thing about it is you probably got a great interest rate on it, and it's going to be a much better deal than if you were just going to go buy investment properties. Because in the initial interview, you ask them, hey, have you ever thought about buying investment properties? So then you can go down that path of showing them how they could potentially convert their primary into a rental. I mean, it's not going to make you popular with a real estate agent that wants to list their house, but by showing them options, and I promise you, most of the time you do this, they're going to sell the house anyways. But because you're showing them more options, because you're teaching them how to build wealth, they go, man, this guy went through and did something that nobody else did. He showed me that I could actually buy again and offset my payment without qualifying. Now that goes into the second guideline that you need to know, the tip of the day. Well, can you have two VA loans at the same time? You absolutely can have two VA loans at the same time. But you got to be really careful on the primary residence, what they call declaration, and then you got to be careful on how you're doing the calculation for entitlement, the math for how much they can actually use to get 100% VA loan guarantee. Now, we don't have a lot of time today, so we're not going to do a whole entitlement calculation. We're just going to do some real quick, simple over-the-screen math, and sometimes my public math isn't so great. But one of the easier ways to understand it is like if you take the conforming loan limit somewhere around 766, 550, and you say, okay, well, that's about where the limit is today, even though I know VA has no limit if they haven't used their entitlement, but they've got a house, and that house is 300 grand, and they want to buy another house. All I do is I just subtract the 300 from the county limit. If it's 766, 550, in my head, I go, okay, they can probably buy somewhere around 450 and get another VA loan and have two zero down loans at the same time. So that's cool. Yeah, that's how just in my head, I do the math real quick and I go, do they have enough room to buy another house? Now, yes, I'll go pull the VA entitlement calculator and I'll do all the math and I'll put it in the file and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, I'm trying to show them, look, you have enough entitlement to buy this new house with zero down, to take the lower interest rate that you already had on that house that you bought and refinanced in 2020, 2021, have a super low payment on it, keep that, cash flow that. Instead of going out and buying some other rental property, you already have a good rental property right here. Let's turn this one into a rental. Now, understanding how the entitlement math works is important for that too, because you have to go in and you have to learn how to do those calculations. I can help you with that. I can do a longer training with you guys. Anybody that wants that, just message me. I'll teach you how to do that. So that's one way to help veterans build wealth, is to introduce that concept of converting a property to a rental. It's super important too if you're working with active duty and they're buying their first home and they're concerned. This literally happened to somebody at our company just last week. The veteran, and I got on the phone with the vet and the loan officer and walked through it. The veteran was really nervous because like, man, what if I change stations or get deployed? Now I'm no longer living in Georgia. And so we slowed down a little and said, hey, this property appears to be highly rentable because it's super close to the base. You can buy another house with zero down, and this is how it would work. And so we explained again the whole concept of wealth building. And I even told them to use like a fun phrase with the active duty passive income, right? Every time you change duty stations or move bases, you could potentially buy another house as long as you have enough entitlement left. Now, a few years go by, you bought all these houses as primary residences and you got lower interest rates and you put less money down. And that's how you started your rental portfolio, by truly living in them while you were at the base. Then when you get reassigned to a different duty station, you could buy another one. So again, understanding how the occupancy part works and understanding how offsetting a departing residence is really important if you're trying to teach veterans how to build wealth. Now, some veterans will come to us and they have seen something online or watched a YouTube video or heard like, hey, I can buy a multi-unit with my VA loan. Awesome. Again, understanding the occupancy, you can, as long as you live in one unit. You definitely have to certify the primary residence part of it. You live in one unit. Now, where they get tripped up a lot of times, or where the loan officers get tripped up, and this is the guideline that you need to remember, if they're buying a 4-unit and they're trying to count the rent on those other units, a lot of loan officers will just say, yeah, we can do it, but they don't explain to them that the VA kind of requires that they have some rental experience to count that unit. And this is where the VA gets a little vague. And this is where the seasoned loan officer, who's kind of more dialed in and paying more attention and networking with other LOs, knows there's a way around that. If you really kind of dive into that guideline, you go, oh, well, they have to have had experience or they can't buy a 4-unit and count rental income. Yes and no. They could also hire a management company that has the experience and delegate the experience to that management company and show the VA, look, we've hired a management company to handle the rentals for us. Now can we use the market rent? And the answer is yes. So that's a trick right there that, an astute loan officer who's trying to help veterans learn how to build wealth knows, got it in their back pocket. I know that you could, even though you don't have rental experience yet, you could buy a 4-unit and you can count the rent to help you qualify on those other 3 units. So the rents are high enough, it's going to be really easy for you to qualify for a 4-unit. And this is really important when you get where some of these bases are and the veterans are not making a ton of money and they want to buy a house with some of their other friends and fellow veterans. So good stuff to know that. Now, I think, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So just so I'm clear, even going back to the very beginning where you said that, okay, departing residents, right? I just got to get something that shows what the rent will be. There's no vacancy factor factored into that? It's just that, no.
Frank, wow. Don't FHA my VA. You hear me say that all the time. And that's really, that one gets confused.
Don't FHA my VA. And, before you wrap this up too, and I'm going to be just selfish about this, I do have a contract that came in on a VA, no, I got an offer that's being written on a VA deal, and I know they're going to be worried about VA appraisal. So if you can manage to touch base on VA appraisal, like what they require, as far as the condition of the home. But keep going with what you're doing. Drop it in.
That's another way to teach the veteran how to build wealth and manage debt. And it's specifically knowing that some agents are going to tell your veteran, we only accept conventional. And the problem with that is twofold. Number one, usually the conventional rates are higher, well, threefold. 4-fold, 5-fold, 6-fold, lots of reasons. But the rates are probably higher. Many times there's PMI because they're not putting the 20% down. And then the refinance options really get convoluted. A lot of agents will just tell them that, you can just refinance and use your VA later. The challenge with that is, number one, if the veteran doesn't have an exemption, if they don't receive any disability, there's a funding fee there. And that VA cash out funding fee is over 3%. So telling them, buy conventional now and go VA later, you've just told them you're going to have to pay 3% to use your VA cash out refi later. It's actually better for you to do VA on the purchase because a VA IRRRL only has a 0.5% funding fee. So again, it's the financial people doing math and understanding the refinance is super easy on an IRRRL, like pretty much no documentation, no appraisal, just wait 210 days, make sure they made their payment. It's one of the easiest refinances in America. The cash out is a full-blown deal. And especially if it's a high loan to value cash out, like a 95 or 100, the pricing is not even that good. So, this concept of just telling people to use the cash out of the VA loan later as opposed to conventional, that's a problem. So the reason I hear them say oftentimes use the conventional, just like you said, Frank, it's the property condition, it's the appraisal. And many of those things come down to loan officers not knowing how to work with the VA on appraisals. Number one, not understanding the posted turn times. Each state has their own posted turn times. Some states are longer than others. And what I recommend for any loan officer is like, look, know, what the state you're in or the states you're working, know what their turn times are before you start talking to agents about accepting offers. So when they ask you a question about appraisals, you can tell them this is the turn time in your state. It's like, I know in my state, Michigan, it's 8 business days. And if I have an agent who's stressed out about it, I say, look, part of the problem here is that a lot of your loan officers take 7 days to order appraisals because they can't figure anything out. And here at, our company, we know it's very important to get appraisals back quickly. So if there's any kind of issues, they can be negotiated way upstream of the closing date. So as long as, we have a good conversation with the buyer's agent and the veteran, and, it's very important on your side to get it ordered right away, we will tell them that's part of accepting your deal, is that you got to move quickly because we need this thing back quick. So just, again, understanding what the turn times are and knowing how to get those orders in quickly. Some loan officers will say, oh, yeah, I'm licensed in XYZ state, having never done one because the guy sitting next to them does it, or they just got a license or whatever. And then they find out the turn time is 10, 11, 12, 13 days. They wait 7 days to order it. They got 2 days till closing. And oh my God, the VA is so slow because they didn't know up front. It just didn't know. So that's problem one, is the turn time. Problem two is things like the property condition. Not necessarily knowing what minimum property requirements are about the handrails, or they're going to check if there's a crawl space, they're going to check in the crawl spaces. Certainly not quite as restrictive as VA or FHA. VA is way more flexible, but there are a few things in the Chapter 12 that, I geek out sometimes and teach classes on, but you got to be cognizant of this stuff. One of my favorite questions for the listing agents, though, is like, what about this house makes you think that the VA is going to have a problem with it? And, oh, well, it's pretty much brand new. Okay, well, then there's nothing wrong with it, right? Or, oh, it's brand new, but there's no rail on this staircase. Okay, cool. How much is it going to cost? Let's just address it right up front. Get the agents to talk about what they think the problems might be. And then if they come up with a problem that you just go, okay, that could be a real problem. Know the ways to work around it. Say, okay, well, there's a couple ways to work around this then. Number one, the seller could fix it, which I'm not sure if you guys want to do or not. Number two, the price could go up a little bit. The buyer can agree to fix it. What, the veteran can agree to fix it? Yes, the veteran can agree to fix it as long as the lender is okay with them holding back a little bit of escrow for this minor repair. Many lenders don't do that. Our company does do that in some cases. I just was working on one before this breakfast call of like a $500 repair. So knowing that you can do escrow waivers for escrow for repairs, knowing kind of how to talk through those things is really important to give the other side confidence to accept your deal. The other piece that a lot of loan officers don't know is that you can actually go straight over the appraiser's head. You can go to the VA with what they call a minimum property requirement waiver, an MPR waiver. So if everyone in the transaction disagrees and says, man, this is the dumbest thing ever, there's no county code for this, nobody in the right mind, thinks that this crack in the window is a big deal, you can take that appraiser's opinion and you can go straight to the VA. You usually get an answer with 2 to 3 business days, and you can say, look, my veteran signed a letter that they're looking to get this condition waived. They think this is not a safety issue. They're not going to hold the VA liable. And then you can literally try to override the appraiser on that. And I tell you what, whether you win or not, the fact that you as a loan officer know how that process works is super important when you're on the phone with the agents trying to negotiate the deal. So you're out there, telling the agents, look, don't be so scared about this appraisal. I know how to order it quick. I know how to help you work through any minimum property requirements. We already talked about the condition of the property. And lastly, if they're concerned about the value, you can educate yourself about what they call tidewater and reconsideration of value, 2 ways to come to value. We're probably not going to have enough time to go through all those. But again, educating yourself, like Frank was saying, the tip of the day stuff. I'll send the tip out, I'll explain it, you learn it, but then you pull it into your vocabulary. You pull it into the daily conversations that you're having on VA loans. You maybe even make a social media post about it because you just learned it. You maybe make a little YouTube video for your channel so that it gets to the point where it's part of your DNA. And you do that over and over again, and then you start telling the agents, like, look, save me in your phone. It's VA Fisher, the VA guy. I'll help you whether I'm the loan officer or not. I'm going to help you learn how to, work through these transactions and give veterans the benefit that you earn. So you can turn all these little tips into part of your personal brand. And every time you're having a conversation with other loan officers or doing something with a listing agent, you just remind people that you love VA loans, you love geeking out on them, and you love helping them solve problems. And like you guys were saying, before the call, we were talking about saving deals and how people at our company love to save deals. You get a reputation as a guy that loves to save deals for vets and loves to help agents work with vets. People will call you if you say that enough times to them. Like, hey, call me if you get stuck on VA, over and over and over again. Does that make sense, Frank?
It does, and you've been great, and we're at the top of the hour, so you consumed the entire 20, but thank you so much. The chat is blowing up with praise and thank yous, and just you've really helped out quite a bit, and just really, really appreciate you. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot more time here. We do got to kind of get moving. I want to pass it back to Carl and get your thoughts on this, Carl, and how you might want to close out the day here. What are you thinking?
I need some duct tape.
Need some duct tape?
Take my head back on my shoulders here.
I know. Or
a lot of good info.
Pack of
Well,
smokes.
I was
Need
trying
a
to give you a
cigarette
little
right
bit like
about
a
now.
3-hour
Yeah.
class in 20 minutes. But
How about for those people that want to follow Fish? All this great info, all these nuggets of information. How can they follow you?
I mean,
Well,
Are you
let's
on
talk.
Facebook,
Let's do this.
LinkedIn?
Let's do this. He's got an event coming up. Maybe we could just send some people to your. When's your event coming up?
26th and 27th in St. Louis. It is the Veteran Mortgage Advisor, Veteran Housing Advisor meetup. And what we do at this event is we talk about how much we love to educate each other so that we can go out into the communities and be the folks who are teaching the veterans ourselves. So it's a symposium designed to help us learn how to educate veterans as loan officers and as realtors. So, how do we make more forward-facing content that's useful? How do we teach more classes? How do we fill the room when we teach classes? How do we potentially make connections with it in the military community so that, we can put some butts in seats and actually share some of these important lessons, like some of the things that I said on this call. So, that's a great event coming up. I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook. Tons of people follow me.
Well, we put the link into the chat too for the event, for the registration. You throw it in there one more time, Krista, just because it's chat's flying around. But a VA tip of the day, useful information. Is that something you guys like, right? VA tip of the day. And let's see what else I want to say here real quick. But I would say I would just close it out with it. Carl, unless you got some other thoughts on this. How do you want to close the show out today? What you're thinking?
Man, really good stuff. Hey, Fish, if you used to give me one thing to do, one action item to go do, what would you have me do?
If I wanted you to do one action item, Carl, this is really simple. I would ask you to think about why you asked me on this call today. Why does Carl want to be better for veterans and VA loans and loan officers? What's the reason why? Be really clear on that. Once you understand that, it makes all of your marketing and your business efforts a lot easier. I show up on this call to do this call to honor my father and his VA loan benefits that I never really knew about until I became a loan officer. So many people don't understand the benefits because nobody's teaching them, and so many vets are not building the wealth that they could build if they understood the full power of the VA home loan benefit. Knowing that empowers me to talk about it, and it makes it so much more passionate for me that I get excited about it. Once you're excited about something, it's easy to learn. It's easy to talk about. Think about why you as a loan officer want to do more with VA, and then you will find the people and the resources that will help you as long as your motivation makes sense. So that's what I would say, Carl. Figure that part out first. Everything else will fall in line.
Yeah. Just real quick, what percent of mortgages are VAs these days?
It's higher than it used to be, but we're still, depending on the state, somewhere between 9 and 15%. If you go to Texas, it's pretty close to 20. And you'll have some loan officers that'll be 50, 60, 80% VA. You'll have some that are 2 or 3% VA. So it's an argument I go back and forth on. Some people say I wouldn't want to pigeonhole myself and talk too much about VA, but I found that some loan officers, by putting a lot of VA marketing out there and just reminding everybody that they're good at all loans, they endear themselves to a lot of the agents and customers that, just because they're trying to get out there and say, look, here's an underserved community that I really love to help. And it's a door opener. It allows you to go talk to anybody, and you don't have to talk to them about just VA loans. But the fact that you're trying to do something other people aren't doing makes it much easier for you to have conversations. It's not just the same like, hey, let's go shake hands. Let's try to get to meet and know each other. It's like, hey, I've got something really important I'm working on, and I'd like your opinion. And it's always important to ask their opinion, right? I want your opinion. Do you think that, me specializing in VA loans would prevent me from working with you because I only do VA loans? I'll just ask the agents that. So, oh, no, you're my VA guy. And then if I do a deal or two with them, I'll say, okay, well, I did great on VA. Did you like how our team operated? How about you just send me all your loans? So, again, finding a way to get passionate, finding a way to get the agent excited, getting them to start using you, they'll send you all your deals if they like you, right? So
this reminds me. Let me close out with one quick story. This is worth listening to. So one of the loan officers in my group, or in my that works like in my branch, she did this really interesting thing. This is going back like 8 years ago. Fish, listen to what this lady did, and I could see you use the VAs the same way. So this lady had closed no loans, right? Brand new, right? She was a processor, and she wanted to become a loan officer. So she was looking for an angle. How do I break in? So she learned a little bit, not much, but a little bit about reverse mortgages. And then she got invited to real estate offices to talk about reverse mortgages, including real estate offices that were closed off to loan officers. Like they had their own internal company to do their mortgage, but they would invite her to come in to talk about reverse mortgages to be used as purchase. And so in a very short order, so this lady went from, I think her first year, I think she ended up, and this off the top of my head, her first year, she made like $200,000 writing loans. I think her second year was closer to $500,000. I think by year 4, she was a 7-figure. Now here's the kicker though. Listen to this. Guess how many reverse mortgages she did?
Probably like 5, 10.
0.
Right.
Never did one. That was her. I mean, she would. It's not that she wouldn't. It's just she used that information to get in front of people, and then went, oh, and I do this other stuff too. And that's how she got invited into all these closed offices. So I could see using the VA. Yeah, Todd just say a door opener. Todd, you're dead on. But go in there with a VA message on how you can help people. I think people generally are patriotic. Not everybody, but generally are patriotic, and they want to help and give back kind of thing. And so it can be used as a great door opener. And I know a lot of our loan officers, they get Fish's daily comment, and they don't send them out daily, but maybe like once a week they'll grab one of your comments, Fish, and they'll blast it out to their referral partners saying, hey, did you know, and insert in. So, hey man, thanks for all the good work you do. Thanks for helping us in our branch. And dude, thanks for helping loan officers be better loan officers. I really appreciate you, my man.
Carl, I got to leave with one important message, and it's the message of just remembering to be abundant-minded. Like, I offer to help so many agents and people, and, one day, many years ago, you reminded me, hey, offer to help them, but then, like, ask them to help you once in a while, too. And it's awesome to go out there and have a strong message about you help everybody. And just remember, once in a while, tell them how they can help you, too.
Yeah.
And you get passionate, you get really good at something, you tell people you're good at it. You got to tell them you're good at it more than once, though. They don't always listen the first time, and they will come back and find you. So and then once they find you, then you ask them to help you a little bit. You don't hardcore pressure sell them or whatever. You build a relationship and it goes really well. So
yeah, very good.
Well,
hey gang, hey, thanks for letting us be part of your day. Hey, just one last thing in closing. So Fish comes on here, and that's what his nickname is Fish. Just by the way, that's what all of his friends call him. So Fish comes on. Fish donates his time to come on here, so he has some paid training that's awesome. It's great, but he's doing this absolutely free as a volunteer kind of thing. So we really appreciate you. Hey, go on the Loan Officer Breakfast Club Facebook group and show Fish some love for helping out. Maybe you can go in there and ask him some questions. If you have more questions, you might could go in there. But reach out and show my brother some love. So Fish, we appreciate you. And you're going to be doing this on a regular basis, or can we expect to hear from you more?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm dragging him in a lot, Carl. Don't worry.
All right. I love you, man. You're just an outstanding dude.